Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome. Today we have the Immigration Live Question and Answer session. My name is Tanya Friedman. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Kinetics USA. We help nurses come to the US, and I have with me our expert panel. Very excited to introduce some new faces to the panel as well. We have, of course, Carl Schusterman. Hi, Carl. Welcome. And Denise Gavica-Perez, who everybody knows. Welcome. And then also we have Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, how are you?
And Anshu is new to the panel. Welcome, Anshu.
Thank you. Hi.
We are going to get started, and I wanted to welcome everybody who is watching all over the world. The new time slot for the Immigration Live Question and Answer session with the legal experts is now on a Thursday morning at 7:30 Pacific time. Please check the time in your location, wherever you are, all over the world. And we're going to get straight to it. I just want to first of all just thank the Lafora admin team for giving us this opportunity. The reason why the show started is because many nurses would be asking each other immigration questions. The immigration is complicated. It can feel a little scary, a little overwhelming. And we are very grateful to the Lafora admin team for giving us this opportunity of getting the experts in who are going to be answering your immigration questions today. So for the next 30 minutes, we're going to just be firing questions at this legal panel that we see on the screen in front of us. Please put your questions into the chat. I have a lot of questions that people have already sent through, and I'm going to get through as many as possible. So let's get started. Okay. We have a question, and the first question is from iRose. iRose is asking about a big question, the big bad wolf that everybody's worried about, retrogression. Carl, can you maybe tell us a little bit about the latest status in terms of the possibility of retrogression?
Well, I got good news then. So Charlie Oppenheim, who will be giving his last chat on the 26th this month, when he said there would be a significant retrogression in the employment-based categories in November, I guess he wasn't as specific, or maybe I wasn't listening as closely as I could, but the retrogression was just in two countries, the countries that are really backed up, in people born in India and China. And there was no retrogression for the Philippines or anywhere else in the world. So I think things look fantastic for the Philippines. As we've said before, instead of 140,000 people getting green cards through employment in this fiscal year, which started on October 1st, there'll be over double that, 290,000. So believe me, I've been doing this for over 40 years. And there's never been a better time to apply for a green card through employment than there is right now.
Okay, well, that gives everybody a big sigh of relief, Carl, because I know that was something really scary that people were worried about. And if you have not yet started your journey of coming to the US, if you've not yet passed your NCLEX or your IELTS exam, please do so now. As Carl said, there is no better time, and he's been doing this. How many years have you been an immigration lawyer?
Oh my God, 40-something. Who remembers?
40 plus. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next question. And I see the questions are coming in from everybody all over the world. So I'm going to get to as many as possible. So please put your questions into the chat, and let's pick the brains of these experts that we have with us today. Okay. So we have a question. So we have a question here from Juan, who's saying, I am so frustrated with the Expedite process. What is the best way to expedite my case, and why can't we get relief? Denise.
So basically, because of the backlog and COVID, a lot of the staff at the embassies are trying, and the consulates are trying their best to review the expedite requests and work, of course, approving them. But there's so many requests right now that it's impossible for them to be able to schedule the expedited appointments. So basically, you have to submit it, make an effort, try. If they deny it, refile, submit it again until they schedule the appointment. But unfortunately, you have to try to understand that there's so many expedite requests right now because there was a backlog to begin with last year when the embassies and consulates were closed, and they've reopened, and they're trying to work through all the immigrant visa requests. It's not just for nurses, it's also for other professions. So the number of immigrant visas that are being requested have increased, and so they offered the expedite to help alleviate the issue, but there's still so many requests that you just have to go through the process and continue trying. And we know you're frustrated. We are frustrated as well. I'm sure they're frustrated also, but their operations can't hire more people that easily, that quickly, and have the employees working until 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 in the morning. It's impossible to add more staff, but they're trying their best to expedite. So continue trying, continue submitting it, even if they deny it.
Okay, so you heard that from Denise. Continue trying. We know this is frustrating. It's frustrating for everybody. And I wonder if anybody on the panel can just clarify, because we get a lot of questions where nurses will say, is it better for me to expedite my case myself? Is it better for the lawyer to expedite it? Is it better to get a letter from my employer, the hospital or nursing home that sponsored me? Can anybody on the panel maybe answer that question and say, what is the best route to take in terms of expedite?
Well,
Whether it's the applicant, I am sorry for interrupting you.
No, you're fine. I personally haven't seen any difference between those 3 routes, and maybe another person on the panel has, but I generally try every route possible. But a lot of times people contact me because they're waiting, they're stuck at the consulate, haven't got an interview. And just because you put an attorney on there doesn't mean they're instantly going to care and put you at the front of the line, right? So I think that you try every avenue you can, but I haven't seen personally in my professional experience any difference no matter the route, but we try every route.
Okay. Anshu, I think did you have something to add to that?
Yes. So, I think the one thing that we've kind of just been learning in the last month or so is sometimes when more than one expedite request is put in, they tend to they could put your case like at the back of the line. So it's best to just maybe have the, like Jennifer was saying, like use all avenues, but try to maybe just keep in loop your attorney, your recruiter, and just to let them know if you are going to put in the request. I mean, the preference for me always with my clients is for the attorney to put in the request, just so we can monitor it. And interestingly enough, we noticed that our clients have been getting the expedite approvals, and the embassy is actually not even responding to us. And so sometimes the recruiter and the employer will get the expedite request, even though, the expedite approval, even though we've requested it. So, just I think the main thing kind of takeaway is just to make sure everyone is looped in. All parties are looped in.
Okay.
And to add to that, Tanya, I'm sorry, just make sure that you include a letter from the employer. Whoever submits it, you must include a letter from the employer confirming the need. It has to have your case number, your name, your date of birth, the employer's name. Make sure that you have that letter, because if you request an expedite without it, it will definitely be denied.
Okay, so include the letter, keep everybody in the loop, as Anshu said, and as the whole panel has said, just keep trying. We know that it's frustrating for everyone. And there's a lot of misinformation and rumor about this expedite process where some nurses will think, oh, well, this particular lawyer is getting better results. This particular employer is getting results. This particular agency is getting results. What would your answer be to that? Do you think that that's the case?
No,
No,
absolutely not.
Exactly.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So
I think the State Department is just more or less randomly choosing which cases are going to get expedited. So there is no rhyme or reason to this.
Right. That doesn't seem to be any pattern. I think it's totally random. Like Anshu was saying, I mean, I haven't seen any particular person for any reason why I think their case would be any stronger. It just seems totally random.
Yeah. And that's where I'm so grateful to the Lafora admin team for giving us this opportunity, because sometimes when these things happen, and we've seen these things happen over the years, where there's some kind of a hiccup, and all kinds of misinformation and rumor starts, where people will say, oh, well, you have to go through this lawyer will get it done, or this agency, or this employer. And that, as you can hear from the legal expert panel, is not correct. This is a random process, and hopefully it's going to improve in time. Okay, I have a question here from Chriselle. Hi, Chriselle. I know Chriselle, who's asking, I'm an RN from New York. Good morning to you all. I want to ask the process of the TN visa adjustment of status expedite request for travel document EAD. So I think Chriselle is working on a TN visa and wants to ask about the adjustment of status process. Jennifer, do you want to maybe take that question?
Sure. So, I mean, typically with TN, when applicants are on TN visas, I actually recommend consular processing over adjustment of status. Although she could be, it's for various reasons. But if you are pursuing adjustment of status while on a TN, you know, you would have to submit the 485 application, which is your adjustment of status, and along with that, you would include I think she was asking about the work permit and the travel document.
Yes.
So along with that, you include those applications, and you're not, once you submit those applications, I generally tell my clients don't travel in and out until you get the advanced parole approved, just so we can avoid any issues at the border, even if you have a TN. So that can take, though, right now, at least 5 months to get a work permit or travel document. I mean, if you look at the processing times, even work permits can take, some of them say up to 10 months. It depends on you know, your category, but it can be a long wait. So, I mean, there's a lot more to the adjustment, but it would take a lot longer than this question probably allows right now.
Well, thank you for giving us that overview. And Chriselle, or anyone else who is interested in the adjustment of status process, please watch the Kinetic show Onwards and Upwards next Friday, because we will be talking about that particular process in a lot of detail, the timing, you know, why you shouldn't leave the US while that process is in place, and answer a lot more questions on that specific process. We have a question here from Mark. Mark is asking about the AAIHR. Is there any news of the Healthcare Workforce Resilience Act? Any changes from the government side? And so maybe if you want to take that question.
There's actually not much that's gonna kind of, you know, happen with the HWRA Act between now and December. But, you know, just keep in mind that there are roughly about 40 to 50 sponsors of the bill. And so, you know, I think the priority for a lot of folks right now is just more so trying to get these cases, you know, unstuck that are in queue and to start getting visa appointments. But from a legislation perspective, that, you know, HWRA is kind of on hold right now.
Okay, so thank you for that clarification. And for anybody, you know, who's watching, just for all the members of the AAIHR, and I know that Anshu is you know, the Marcelo group is one of them, is that there is a lot of efforts right now to try and assist with this expedite process. Kinetics has been involved with that. Marcelo Group has been involved with that, as well as many other organizations. And hopefully we're going to have some relief from that side as well, trying to get things moving.
Can I add one thing?
Yes, sure.
Sorry. So I did want to give an update on the expedite requests. You know, Chris Basillo, who is a frequent panel on these webinars, he was actually on a State Department call not too long ago with a lot of the industry leaders. And one of the, and a couple of things that were raised, a couple of requests that were raised with the State Department was, you know, they want to see that the training of officers is consistent across the board. And then also we're just requesting like a quicker processing time in general for the visas. And what we're telling the State Department, which Chris is kind of, he's said on other panels, is, the pandemic is probably the new normal. And so the answer can't just end with the pandemic means a staffing shortage. Our message to the State Department was, other businesses have adapted, and so we're asking you to do the same. Now, Chris has another call with the State Department in a couple of weeks. I think the State Department is, they're listening. They're looking at alternate ways to expedite these cases. So I do think the agency is making progress. I just wanted to add that.
No, and I'm glad that you did. And I've also been on some of those calls. So I think it's very important for you to let people know that there's a lot of hard work that's going on behind the scenes. Sun is asking, hi, good day. I just want to ask if the ID release nowadays is clustered by agency recruiter, because majority of release IDs in our place are from 2 agencies, recruiters only, or was it just coincidence? So the answer, Sun, you heard this from the expert panel, is this is coincidence. This is purely random. There is no one agency or 2 agencies that are getting their cases through quicker than others. Okay, John is also asking about interview dates. So John, I think we've covered your question. There are a lot of questions coming in. Okay, so there is a question from Maravik who's asking about the COVID vaccinations that are now required for green cards. Carl, can you maybe talk a little bit about the vaccinations and what the requirement is and how it's going to work?
Yeah, so the Biden administration put down a new requirement that anybody coming to the U.S. with a green card has to have a medical exam and show on the medical exam that they're fully vaccinated for COVID. So, I mean, there are some very, very limited exceptions, where people have health concerns or some other objection to the healthcare requirement. But I think 99% of the people coming into the United States on green cards must be fully vaccinated.
Okay, so that's something that everybody is going to have to take care of as part of their normal green card process. Okay, there's a question from, let me see here, sorry. Okay, so Akuna is saying that's good news, by the way, about the changes that are happening. Gina is saying, my daughter, she passed the NCLEX exam. She's waiting for a certificate for NCLEX passer. Gina, congratulations to your daughter. And we would love her to apply to come to the US. So we have a few more questions about the Expedite as well, about specific embassies. So Jeff is asking about the embassy in Abu Dhabi. And I saw it was Len is asking about the embassy in Philippines. So Jeff and Len, I think we've covered that question. It's really, it's kind of random. There's a lot of hard work to try and expedite and move cases quicker through the process. And hopefully we'll be able to give you further updates soon. Kendi's asking, good morning. I want to ask if I can file a new green card application while on pending motion to reopen or reconsider. Denise, can Kendi do that?
With another employer or the same employer?
She doesn't say, but I maybe a new employer, maybe?
If it's with a new employer, then yes, the new employer can petition for her immigrant visa while she has the other case pending the motion.
Okay. All right. So there you go, Kendi. Mari is asking, I have experience in ICU at the moment working with infection control. Is there a possibility to apply to immigrate as an RN? Mari, the big answer is a big yes. There are more positions right now in the US than we've ever seen. We literally have seen thousands of applications, thousands of job openings. So now is, as Carl said, the best time to come to the US. And if anybody has not yet passed the NCLEX exam, please get on that, because obviously that's the first step to being able to file your case. Okay, so we have a lot of people watching from all over, tagging your friends. Thank you for tagging your friends. This is the lawyer's way of paying it forward for you, and you tagging your friends is your way of paying it forward for others. Okay, so Lynn is asking, what is the average time it takes to change status from an F1 to a green card? And could that applicant apply for work authorization when filing the green card paper, so the applicant can start working sooner? Anshu, do you want to maybe take that question?
Sure. So to change status from F1 to green card, the first thing I would say is hopefully as an F1 you're on OPT, which would allow you to work while your green card application is pending. And yes, once you file the green card application, you can actually request for an EAD or employment authorization document with your 485 application. And I think Jennifer previously mentioned it's just taking, it's taking upwards of 6 months to get that EAD application. And so, but it would at least allow you to continue working once your OPT ends. And if not, then you would have to just take a break until that EAD is approved. And then once it's approved, you just keep working, you keep renewing it until your green card is approved. And then, again, that green card timeline, it's just really dependent upon the field office that's working on it. It can take upwards of, a year to 18 months.
Okay, thank you, Anshu. George and Albert are asking about the Manila Embassy. So I think, George and Albert, we've spoken about that. I know there's a lot of frustration about the backlogs at the consulates, but I think we have covered that question this morning. And Len is also asking about the consulates. Ram is asking, my friend living and working in Canada for 4 years, he applied for citizenship and may get it in 6 to 12 months. He is Indian born. So can he apply for an I-140 and a TN later after citizenship? Carl?
Sure. So the TN is from the NAFTA treaty. It means trade NAFTA. It's an agreement that the U.S. has with Mexico and Canada. So if you become a citizen of either Mexico or Canada, you're eligible for a TN visa. There's 60-something occupations that are eligible for that. Nurses, registered nurses are one of those occupations. So the answer is obvious, yes. But remember, the TN, just like the green card, you must have the NCLEX, you must have the visa screen.
Okay. And I think Ram is also asking a further question. Can you help I-140 for Indian?
Well, I-140 for India is a total disaster. What I like to say about the visa bulletin, and if there's Indians listening to this, you're gonna, just take a deep breath here. But even when you look at the visa bulletin, and it might look like 10 to 15 years to get a green card in the EB3 category, which is the category for nurses, it's not that at all. It could be easily 20 or 30 years to get a green card. So this is something Congress will have to work on to either recapture unused visa numbers or to take off the per country caps. But right now, if you're born in India, it's really a disaster for trying to get into the U.S. through employment.
Yeah. So your friend Ram's best chance of coming to live and work in the U.S. is if they are able to obtain their Canadian citizenship and come on.
I should mention that ended on a good note. That we've had clients that have been extending their TN for 20 or 30 years. So it's not like you have to leave the U.S., but you'll be on that temporary TN status for many years. And then eventually, when your number comes up, you'll be able to adjust status and get your green card.
Good. Okay. So Ram, hopefully that gives your friend some hope. We want to spread some hope and light today. So hopefully that will be a hope. The one thing that I'm just thinking of, it's not a question that Ram raised, but Ram, if your friend is married to somebody who was not born in India, in another country, for example, then there is a possibility for cross-chargeability. Denise, do you want to maybe just speak a little bit about cross-chargeability?
Yes, of course. Although you pretty much covered it, Tanya, but basically, if someone is from a specific country and they're married to someone who's from another country, you can attach yourself to your spouse's country instead of using yours. So a lot of people from India who are married, for example, to someone from Colombia or France, they can use their nationality for purposes of filing the adjustment of status or consular processing. An immigrant visa will be available to them if the spouse's country of birth has immigrant visas available. So they just cross-charge to their spouse's nationality.
Thank you, Denise. Okay, and Roberto's asking, is the virtual interview possible? I'm not sure, Roberto, if you're referring to like the consular interview or the interview with the employer. With the interview with the employer, yes, everything is virtual these days, but not for the consulates. Okay, we have a question from Hop, who is saying, hi, me and my girlfriend is planning to get married. I'm now at the DQ stage. I want to know what steps are to make her as my dependent. Jennifer, if you want, maybe take that question.
So they're planning to get married? Is that
yes.
Not, well, obviously you have to eventually get married.
Yeah.
so that they can be considered a derivative. So obviously get married. And if you're doing an immigrant visa abroad, you can add the derivative through the National Visa Center. You can add an applicant on as a derivative. Is that what they were asking?
Yes.
Basically? So yeah, it's not actually a very complex process, but we would need to obviously get married and get the marriage certificate to include them as a derivative.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. There is a question about petitioning parents. What is the earliest time we can process petition for our parents? Some say they start even when they were still at LPR status.
No. You must be a U.S. citizen to petition your parents. But the good news is that parents of U.S. citizens, and I'm talking about adult U.S. citizens, are classified under the immediate relative category, for which there are never any backlogs. There's no limit to the number of people who can immigrate as immediate relatives. So it should be relatively fast, and you don't have to worry about retrogression.
Okay, so there you go. In fact, just to share, I was an immigrant. I came here 21 years ago. And I'm now a very proud American, which is what we want for everybody who's watching the show. And I have just sponsored my mom to come to come to the US. So very exciting. All right. So Christelle has a follow-up question about the adjustment of status process, the TN to the EB3. My I-485 is in process and an Expedite was re-questioned last September 26th, same day I had my fingerprinting done. Is there a chance I will get my travel docs or combo card this November? Anshu.
So when was her fingerprinting done? September?
September 26th.
Okay, and so she's asking when she's going to get her combo card in November. Yeah. I don't think she would get it as quick as November. Again, I see fluctuating timelines on these E80 cards. It's just really dependent upon the service center that it's at. After the biometrics are taking the fingerprints, sometimes you can get the E80 within 2-3 months. So I don't think in November you would be able to get it. But again, this is just the fluctuating timelines that I've seen.
Okay. So hopefully that helps, Chriselle, and hopefully you'll get it soon. Irene is asking, gosh, the questions are coming fast and furious, and I'm watching the clock. We've got like a minute. Irene is asking, can I apply for DV lottery while I wait for my embassy interview date with a case complete of February 2021 in the Nairobi, Kenya embassy? Carl.
Well, it depends where you're from. I mean, the DV lottery is for people from countries where there's not a lot of immigration to the U.S. So it's primarily European, African, and does not cover countries like the Philippines. So, it depends on your country of birth. But the DB lottery, it's a month each year that you can apply. So if you are qualified, if you're not from the Philippines, if you're from one of the qualifying countries, be sure to go online. You don't need to pay a lawyer, and it can all be done online. And you should register right now, because there's only a couple weeks left to register.
Okay, thank you for sharing that for Irene. Denise, Sonia is asking, hello, how soon can I apply for my 24-year-old son who is still in university and completely dependent on me?
How soon can he apply for, how old is his son?
24.
So, so under AC20, his son has aged out. He can apply once he becomes a permanent resident. He can apply, but it's going to take a few years before his son can obtain permanent residence. But once he becomes a U.S. citizen, then the timing improves. It's just as a permanent resident applying for an adult son, it takes a few years. So.
Okay. And maybe, Sonia, your son can come here on a student visa. So that might be another option.
That's true.
Okay. The last question we're going to take today is from Olu. Oli is asking, and we get this question a lot, if somebody makes a mistake on the DS-260. So let me read the question. The third name on my spouse's birth certificate, which happens to be his Christian name, is the same on our wedding certificate, but on other documents, his third name has his native name. How can I rectify this before our interview is scheduled? So if it's something that's like a discrepancy, or maybe it's somebody makes a mistake on the DS-260 form, Jennifer, how does somebody remedy that before they interview, or when they go for the interview?
So you can't, once you submit the DS-260, you can't go back and edit it. So usually what I have is clients at the interview bring, if there's documentation to show why there is a discrepancy, if there is a legal name change, anything like that. And you can make corrections at the interview as well. You could contact the consulate in advance once you have an interview scheduled, if there's any documents or anything you want to, but you can't actually go back and like re-edit the DS-260 once you submit it.
Okay. All right. Well, we are at 30 minutes. That half an hour just flew by. So we have, I think, got through as many questions as we could. I know there were some questions that we weren't able to get to. And I'm really grateful to the expert legal panel who have agreed that they would go into the chat afterwards and answer any questions that we were not able to get to today. So I want to thank Carl, Andrew, Jennifer, and Denise for joining us today. I want to thank everybody from all over the world for all the questions. The good news, as Carl said at the beginning of the show, is that this is, what did you say, Carl? In the 40 years, there's no better time?
And there will be no better time either. So make sure that you apply as soon as possible.
Okay, well, you heard it here from the experts. Thank you, everybody. We will be back in a month, and we look forward to seeing you. And if you have not yet passed your NCLEX, please do so, because as everybody knows, that is the first step to being able to apply for your green card or your TN visa and get to the US. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.